I'm going to show you some stuff here. Now, we've already had 4 mass shootings yesterday or today. I can't remember what it is. But it's all staged, people, for a reason. Where rights are secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would arbitrate them. The unconstitutional act is not a law, so on and so forth. General rule and unconstitutional statute, though having the form and name of law, in reality no law at all. No one is bound to obey an unconstitutional law, and no courts are bound to enforce it. Now, I'm going to show you this 16 a.m. Judas thing here in just a second. We're going to go back up here to a second here. A lot of you people don't seem to have a constitution, so here you go. This is a preamble to the Bill of Rights, which was passed in 1778. No, I'm sorry, 79. No, 1789. Sorry, excuse me. The Convention of the Number of the States, having at the time of their adopting the Constitution, expressed a desire in order to prevent misconstruction, understand that, or abuse of its power, that further declaratory and restrictive clauses should be added. Now this is your Bill of Rights. Here's your Bill of Rights over here. Amendment 1, Amendment 2. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And like I said, there's no subparagraphs A, B, C, or D that would stipulate what an acceptable infringement would be, so they are constitutionally barred from infringing upon your rights. Now what's going on right now across this country is the elites know that the federal firearm laws are bogus, and they're freaking out. They know that we know what the law is, and they've been running ripshod all over it. Let's go over here just a second. Bear with me a second. I'll set this thing up. Let me see. Put that out of here. We'll go here. All right. Okay. Now I'll put a link to this too. The general misconception is that any statute passed by your law people bearing the appearance of law constitutes the law of the land, and that's not so. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and any statute to be valid must be in agreement with it. It's impossible for both the Constitution and a law violating it to be valid. One must prevail. The general rule is that any unconstitutional statute, although having the form and the name of law, is in reality no law. It is wholly void, it is ineffective for any purpose, since unconstitutional dates from the time of its enactment, not merely from the date of the decision so branding it. Now, you've got to get these things voted, or get them unconstitutional. Your jury, you can nullify this stuff, at state level too. Okay. An unconstitutional law in legal contemplation is an opera that had never been passed. Such a statute leaves the question that it perverts only to settle just what would be had the statute not been enacted. Since an unconstitutional law is void, the general principle follows that it imposes no duty, confers no rights, creates no office, bestows no power or authority on anyone, affords no protection, and justifies no acts performed under it. A void act can be legally consistent with a valid one. A void act cannot be legally consistent with a valid one. An unconstitutional law cannot operate to supersede any existing valid law. And indeed, so as far as the statute runs counter to the fundamental law, it is superseded. No one is bound to obey an unconstitutional law, and no courts are bound to enforce it. Now this guy put this up, but thank God he did. I have to go through a bunch of law books, but so as our self-employed rulers will pass whatever it is you are going to pass, I, for one, will refuse to comply. I have the Constitution of both state and federal on my side. I am on the right side of history with this. You are on the wrong side. Just because you can make a felon out of the citizens for the stroke of the pen does not mean that people will comply. This is what you're looking at. I'll zoom this in so you can get a better. See, they know that you've been studying the Constitution. You haven't been sitting on your butt. And they're getting spooked. That's why all these strange things happen. And you think I'm lying about being covered up? Okay, look at 911, people. It was a drill. And it went wacko, didn't it? Look at the Boston City bombing. It went crazy, didn't it? And they've shown all those crisis actors down there with their legs blown off, and they were already amputated before that even happened. Look out there in Vegas. Now you see all these shootings going on. It's because the elites are scared and they're trying to cover their ass. Okay. The Second Amendment to our federal Constitution recognizes that the right to keep and bear arms shall be free from any interference whatsoever from the federal government. Accordingly, the federal government is nowhere in the Constitution granted authority to abridge, restrict, or infringe in any fashion whatsoever guns or ammunition. Thus, all restrictive laws made by Congress, all regulations made by the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms are unconstitutional as outside the scope of powers granted to Congress and to the executive branch by our Constitution. Restrictions of arms and ammunition is not one of the enumerated powers delegated to Congress or to the executive branch. Get that through your head. No place in that Constitution. And like I said, they've tried to twist meanings out of the Commerce Clause and out of the... anyway, they've tried to make you look stupid. They've been getting away with this since what, 1934 and onward. All federal firearm laws are unconstitutional and outside the scope of powers granted to the Congress. Period. End of story. Over and done with. Like I said, the elites in Congress, they know this. And they're getting spooked. That's why you're having all these staged accidents across the United States going with firearms, because they want to get rid of the Second Amendment. They can't do anything as long as you are armed. Get that through your head. They want you disarmed, and then they can do what the hell, whatever they want. Those gun laws, those federal firearm laws, are unconstitutional. They're no good. Junk. And if you got anybody in the Supreme Court that says that I'm a liar, get rid of them. They don't know the law. They were supposed to go to school and study the Constitution. But when they got to school, they found out that they don't teach the Constitution. They only read and study what other judges said about the Constitution, whether it's right or wrong, making the judge the law and not the Constitution itself. Do you understand what I'm saying? They're not teaching the Constitution. They're having these kids read and study what other judges said about the Constitution, making the judge the law and not the Constitution itself. Now, I can't say that often enough. That's what's happened in America since after the Civil War. They turned it to case law, a tyranny law, giving the judges more power. It's like that nitwit Evans said, Hughes, yeah, but back in 1907. The Constitution means what the judges say it means. No, it doesn't. It does not. The biggest thing that we have going for us, thank God, is the Federalist Papers that tell you how the Constitution was to be written and how you were supposed to follow it. It's got all the stuff in there in the Federalist Papers. Do not let these nitwits ripshod and walk all over your back like they're gods. The gods are done. Like I said, all laws that are repugnant to the Constitution are null and void. Period. Now, if our Supreme Court justices cannot do this, then we got a problem. It's like putting that black lady, they want her in there as a Supreme Court judge. I don't want anybody in there that didn't study the Constitution. She has no clue of what goes on in the Constitution. She studied case law. That's not constitutional law. And that's what's been going on. Okay, enough of my ranting. I'll put a link to this. Let's see, wait a minute. Hang in there. Let me go. Let's try this. Well, there's something else. There's somebody that nobody's talking about this. How does a president get wiretapped and spied on if the Secret Service is supposed to be using signal jammers and sweeping rooms to ensure the executive office of the President of the United States is technically secure? Are we going to pretend that the Secret Service didn't notice Trump's communications were being wiretapped and that the White House internet traffic was being monitored? There's a huge elephant in the room that nobody's talking about. I'd love to know who Hillary Clinton's point of contact is at the Secret Service. When you know that the Secret Service is the main barrier of protection for Trump, it makes this whole situation a lot more disturbing. Okay, hang on. Democracy. In democracy, the majority rules. If the majority decides they want to take your bike, they can take it. In a republic, your bike is your property, and you do not owe it to anyone. It cannot be taken away from you against your will by law. America is a constitutional republic. Therefore, the Constitution is the law by which we are supposed to be protected. In a republic, the individual is protected from a majority by constitutional law. And a constitutional republic is what we were given. It's up to us to keep it. The bad thing is, Congress cannot say that they were ignorant of the law. I mean, these people went to law school, most of them did, and then they're doing this. Oh, you don't have to read it. You can read it after it's passed. That's the kind of shit you're getting. Socialist rule, not American rule. Okay, thanks for watching, people.